Hey there guys, what's up? It's Dan here for the penultimate episode review and analysis for Volume 2 of RWBY with this week's episode, No Breaks. Firstly, I really wanted to get this out earlier, but I was in London for Comic-Con where I got to grab a ton of merchandise, see some wicked cosplay, and I got to see Miles and Kerry at their own Rooster Teeth panel hosted at the event. And I felt the after effects of said trip afterwards, so that added to the delay, so my fault. That being said, I'm looking to make a small bonus video of that day, so do be sure to check it out when I do upload it in the future. Back to business though, and spoiler warning folks, for the past episodes and last week's of course, and cause I missed doing a warning last time, I'll make up for it with directing you all to a friend of mine, Freelance Pro, who does some awesome video game music tracks, including some remixes of the RWBY soundtrack, and is a fellow voice actor too, so give him a look in after this. So last week we had RWBY discover the hard way the base of the White Fang, with Roman in tow, and now her team and Oobleck are prepped for combat to save her, and stop whatever the bad guys are up to. Does it bring us into the finale episode well, or does it fumble? Let's kick it off and find out. We open with RWBY still in the clutches of Roman and the White Fang, who, complete with revealing his own personal hook shot on his cane, teases the hooded gal. It's nice to see how RWBY acts without her weapon, as mentioned by Monty in the past, that a lot of her confidence comes from it, and without it, it's clear that she's not as capable, or not sure how to fight hand to hand, especially against someone like Torchwick. But thankfully for her, the cavalry has arrived, and the team are reunited. So Roman and co book it earlier than planned, and a reunited Team RWBY makes like Nathan Drake and hops on the train. A quick bonk on the head sends us to Roman bellowing his men to kick their stowaways off, on top of a quick joke at this poor guy's expense. And the incoming men notwithstanding, things aren't looking good for our lot, as they come across the bomb that we saw a snippet of in the last episode. Not only that, but it's now set to blast. By the way, there was a nice surreal moment here of Oobleck, voiced by Joel of course, telling Blake to detach the caboose. Subtle. When Blake tries to though, the caboose actually separates itself and explodes away from the train. The coast isn't clear though, as the others find out that all the cabooses have bombs planted in them, and the White Fang members are closing in, sparking a quick dash of Team RWBY rumbling to cut down their numbers. The second bomb goes off regardless though, and it seems that my suspicions that I hinted to last week turn out to be correct. The bombs are being cut off on the train and exploding to make tunnels for the subterranean Grimm, including this rhino lizard-like nightmare that attacked Mountain Glen in the past. And with the train, the White Fang plan to bust open the barrier blocking the tunnel from Vale and leading the Grimm right into the heart of the town. So naturally, our lot have to stop the bombs and the train, with Yang, Weiss, and Blake heading inside to stop any further bombs or enemies coming their way, with the Doctor, RWBY, and Zwei looking to stop the train. The White Fang now have swapped their men for mechs, so it's time for Oobleck to let her rip. After a quick sip of God knows what he has in that flask, he does one of the most insane things of this series. He teams up with Zwei, using his newly revealed flamethrower bat, and pitches a home run with the frickin' corgi. He makes a hot dog cannonball and it barrels Zwei into the mech, wiping him off the train. This definitely rivals the food fight for So Stupid It's Awesome of the volume. But seriously, after being stuffed tight in that package from Tai Yang, Zwei's also capable of handling this and living? Maybe he's more than just a simple corgi, that's all I'm saying. The action doesn't stop one bit though, as inside, Yang, Weiss and Blake made their way in. Blake gets a bit of a boost up it seems with some dust amplifiers from Weiss, as we get a very requested rematch. The arrival of Roman's associate Neo means it's time to see what she's capable of with Neo vs Yang Part 2. And boy, it's not even close. Before the fight starts though, As Yang helps her team move forward, notice that Neo's eyes switch from dual brown to 2 different coloured irises, pink and brown, and also switching which eye is having what colour. Shot on the dark here, but could the way that her eyes look mean a different power? We saw her mirror-like substitute in her debut, and here it looks like she deflects Yang's first punch right back at her. It can't be a coincidence, especially with the past showings of eyes sometimes being linked to semblance or aura-based skills. Back to the fight itself, for the most part of her past scuffles, Yang's been seen as massively strong, possibly the strongest of the show, bordering on OP levels to some. But Neo just takes Yang apart and does so with very little. Yang's always been very aggressive with her style of combat, obviously because of her semblance and her weapons, but she's not one for tactics, which plays into Neo's strategy. We've not seen what Neo is capable of in combat, but here we see that she's very defensive based, and unlike her opponent, is more inclined to think on the fly, dodging Yang's blows, deflecting them with her kicks or her umbrella, or unleashing kicks to throw off Yang's guard, and rise her anger up to make her slip up more, all the while not saying a single word, not even a grunt. Perhaps it is true that she might be a mute, as many have speculated about her. This fight though lets Weiss and Blake carry on up the train, but not before another roadblock appears, and he is a big one too. It's the lieutenant that was seen at the White Fang recruitment rally, who arrives packing a massive chainsaw sword combo, something that Weiss decides she's the one to face, and lets Blake fight on. This fight though, compared to Yang's, is much more in the favour of the good side, as even with a very deadly weapon and being a massive tank of a dude, Weiss's size, speed and sharp style of combat gives her the edge for the most part. The guy can't seem to get his wish of finally killing a Schnee, as Weiss attacks quickly and gets away even quicker, yet he's not going down without a fight. Blake's finally reached the front of the train and thus finds Roman, who's still keeping his cockiness about him, leading into their own rematch. But this time Blake has that dust amplifier, and she uses it like a pro. Mixing in with her semblance, she forms an explosive fire clone, a defensive rock clone, and an ice clone to trap Roman and leave him wide open to get smacked down and pinned down, even though he tries to talk his way out from under Blake's blade. I'm making the bold claim here, folks. I think Blake might be the best fighter in terms of combined agility, strength, tactics, and skill amongst any of the students, possibly one of the best in the series. Weiss is still in the driver's seat against Banesaw here, even though she does cut it close, if you pardon the pun. Weiss though looks to seal the deal with her haste-like glyphs and goes full limit break mode, cutting in the guy like ribbons. I say that though, but man, the dude must be one thick-skinned brute, as he finally gets to stop Weiss's movements with a pile driver of a smash, laying her out for a KO blow. Back with Yang versus Neo, it's still all in Neo's court. For every chance of a blow that Yang swings at, Neo either deflects it or just straight up uses the momentum to strike back, as she looks for one good opening to take out Yang, which comes after she cartwheels out of a toss and into her own to send Yang hard into the roof and out for the count, for Yang's first ever loss in a fight. At least one of the 3 girls are having better luck than the others, as Blake still has Roman pinned, though he tries to throw her off with doubts over her wanting to change things after being a White Fang member, at one point saying, "Do you really think a little bow is gonna make people forget what you were? What you've done?" Well, of course, we know that she's done some stuff in the past as a White Fang member, be it protests or actions like the train robbery with Adam. But I don't know. The way that he said it makes me think that he might be hinting to a specific incident, and probably not one that's the train robbery too. Again, it's just another bit of speculation, but I might just be reading something into this a bit deep. In the end, it proves to be a stalling tactic as Banesaw, I'm calling him that until named otherwise, chucks in a beaten down Weiss to even the playing field, until Blake decided that Roman needs to zip it and kicks his head in, and decides to get out of dodge with her teammate. Ouch. But we're jumping back to Yang's situation now, as it looks like that Neo is actually showing a bit of a sadistic side here, pulling out a blade and looking to shish kebab her victim. Until suddenly, we get a new face. And what a face, as out of the blue this grim-masked samurai-esque warrior arrives and stops the killing blow, prepping her multi-dust powered blade, it looks like, ready to give Neo a new challenge. Who doesn't look to be up for it. She looks downright scared even, and her eyes look spooked white too. She either can tell that she's outclassed right now, or perhaps she knows who this Lady Grimm is. Either way, she books it now, possibly looking in to check in on Roman. So now we're left with this mysterious woman and Yang, who starts to come to just in time to see her savior disappear in a portal that she summoned through her blade. You want to talk about making an entrance? That's it right there. As to who she might be, well, I'll go into that later on in the video. Cause up top, Oobleck and RWBY are having a bit less of a troubling time, and again we see more of what Oobleck can do in combat. It's fast as expected, and he is masterful with that flamethrower, double teaming with RWBY to take down some more mechs before splitting up to finish the job with Zwei and letting RWBY aid in stopping the train. The rest of her team pop up, but all four see the dead end nearing quickly, forcing the Ice Queen to call in her ice to form a shield to try and lessen the blow. So yeah, the train destroys the barrier. They couldn't stop it in time, and while they did survive their crash, knocked for a loop and definitely not feeling too good, they're gonna need to shake it off, cause much to their horror and those of the citizens, a host of Beowulfs, those new breed, and King Taiju snakes now flood the city. Team RWBY is not 100%, and Oobleck and Zwei are nowhere to be seen. The other huntsmen are mostly out of the area, and it looks like calling in allies is facing some technical issues. And things look the most bleak and desperate the series has been so far, as we end the episode on the Grimm's invasion. So yeah, let's try and pick up the mood now with my positives and negatives of the episode. Though saying that, as per usual, let's start with the negatives first. Firstly, while it was a very good early scene in terms of some humor, perhaps, I think the opening portion of the episode was a tad wasteful. The idea of a disarmed and defenseless RWBY in the midst of Roman and his men is a tasty concept and sounds promising, but it wasn't given, I felt, enough time to truly use its setup the best way it could. It could have done with a bit more of Roman gloating or trying to interrogate RWBY or something, since it felt far too rushed and underplayed to her being saved very quickly on. Like I said, it was still very entertaining, especially with Roman, but I just felt we could have gotten a lot more out of it, and it feels just like wasted potential. Also, I felt the animation at this point was a little shaky and a bit clunky, like when Roman lifts up one of his men with his cane and how it's animated. It's nothing that's full on terrible, but it adds to the opening definitely feeling like the weakest point of the episode. That being said, the rest of the episode is splendid stuff. A lot of it was action in various ways, and it's usually the show's strongest point, which holds true here with some well-crafted set pieces. We got at last what Oobleck can do in combat, and it's everything that we hoped for and more, and I love the weapon that he's packing since I am a bit of a fan in terms of fire-based weapons and fighting in media. Plus, like I said, while it is odd in concept, the Corgi Cannonball was the right blend of what the fuck and pure awesomeness. The strongest action though definitely came in the one-to-one fights. First with Blake and Roman, and while it wasn't the best fight of these two, they definitely made it special with the unique ways that Blake used that dust amplifier, which has me wondering now how others might use it for their semblance. With Weiss and Banesaw, it was great to finally see Weiss in one-on-one combat in the show, since most of her fights has been as part of a team and not so much by herself. This fight proved a chance to test her skills against a rather tough opponent. Yes, it's not exactly Cinder or even Mercury or Emerald, but this guy was still tougher than any random mook, and was still packing one hell of a weapon, which I'm also glad to see because I really wanted to see what a chainsaw weapon would be like in this world. The best fight though was no question Neo vs Yang. Another checkpoint fight for our heroes, as not only was Yang bested by a smarter opponent, but was also proven to not be as unstoppable in fighting as she has shown in the past, and thus this helps her make any future fight have a bit more of a risk to it, of possible failure or mistakes, since we've now seen that Yang can be outsmarted and toppled from one really entertaining villain. The hype of what Neo could do in battle met, and we even saw some evil side to her in attempting to kill Yang, which led to the arrival of the masked woman. Firstly, the design of this woman is one I really approve of. I love the samurai-esque theme of her, and she's wearing a mask that kind of reminds me of what a Grimm mask might be mixed with Garrus Vakarian from Mass Effect or Guyver. And she is packing a weapon that looks like if you crossed a sword with the same options as one of those multicolored pens. If that portal formed from that sword is anything, perhaps each blade has a unique power like Weiss's glyphs. Either way, she made one hell of an appearance, whoever she is. Speculation on her to come later in the video. But before that, another strong point of this episode, and easily one of its strongest positives for me, was the massive amount of tension it had and the fear that it left with. Team RWBY tried to stop the Grimm coming into Vale, and the episode had the right setting of the speeding train to build up that threat. We knew that if it reached its destination, then it wasn't going to be good news, and it proved as such. So now we're heading into the volume's finale with our heroes weakened, unprepared, and them and the town facing a threat nothing like they faced before, and the first time that the Grimm has really felt like a true force to be reckoned with, which of course has me waiting at the edge of my seat for next week's episode to see what happens. But before I go into the remaining speculation, let's talk about the voice acting. Some good stuff for all present, and to shake things up, I'm going to give my voice acting praise of the week to someone who voiced 2 characters in this episode, that being Grey Haddock, for his performances as the always entertaining Roman Torchwick who was snarky as ever, and for the surprising performance of Banesaw. Yeah, if you didn't catch it or saw the credits at the end of the video saying his name, he voices both of them, and Grey did a fantastic job making sure that both sounded different and didn't make it obvious that he voiced both. So let's get into some speculation, huh? Let's start with the big one. Who is the Lady in Red? The biggest claims shouldn't be a surprise. People have either been speculating it to be Summer Rose, RWBY's birth mum and Yang's stepmom who was long thought dead, or Yang's birth mum, who has been missing in action and is sought after by Yang. To consider it being Summer, there's obviously her protecting RWBY's sister, a similar colour theme in her attire, and her long hair is black with red tips. Signs supporting that it's Miss Xiao Long is again her protecting Yang, and her keeping her identity hidden to possibly keep her identity a secret if Yang did see her. And if you see good enough, you can see that her eyes are red, just like how Yang's are when she's raging her semblance. There's also other options that I feel make very strong contenders too, and her saving Yang might be just a ruse to make us think that it's someone related to her. One of them being someone tied to the White Fang before it was overthrown and changed into a more rebellious, aggressive force, since she's sporting a Grimm mask similar to those of the White Fang and might have a vendetta against this new White Fang and their plans, thus why she got involved. Or is someone related to Adam, Blake's old partner, since they share very similar colour themes, masks, and even similar sword designs. She might be a family relation of him, or perhaps an ally of his. There's enough clues to point to any of these options, and there's enough mystery to make it tough to speculate who she might be. So I won't make a concrete decision right now, but I will guess it might be one of the latter picks, and not one of the long unseen mothers. As for what may come in the volume finale, well, it's gonna be nothing short of a battle zone. The Grimm are already attacking, and right now, 100% or not, Team RWBY are on their own. I think Cinder's actions at the CCT might be why the phone signal has been so poor, to stop anyone inside from calling those on the outside, and may even stop any of Ironwood's mechanical forces since her group has stolen some and might have figured out how to shut them down. However, we do know that Sun and Neptune should still be in the city since they did take their mission there, so I would guess that they would come in and maybe try and help out and bring in their teammates, Sage and Scarlet, to finally debut since they no doubt would have taken the task as a team. Also, we can assume that Ozpin is still there if Glinda and Ironwood are, and I might even guess that Team Coffee is there since they did just get back from a very extended mission. So that's the speculation and my analysis on the episode, and man was that a rush! While I felt the episode started with a bit of a stumble, once it got into the action and the tension of it all, it made like the train itself and steamrolled with great speed. It's easily one of the best episodes in terms of atmosphere, and it had to build up to next week's finale well, which it just did flat out perfectly, with great combat, great suspense, and even a tease of some unknown figure that should have some relevance in later episodes. So how did you feel about the episode? Was the action what you hoped for? How do you feel about Neo's combat skills? And what's your hopes for the finale of the volume? Comment away and I'll be sure to see you next time as Volume 2 closes out. Until then, peace out.